There comes a time in every soul's journey when silence becomes not just strength, but survival. What I am about to say isn't just a warning, it is a calling for you to reclaim your power from the mouths that twist your story, from ears that leak secrets like broken vessels. If you have ever felt misunderstood, betrayed, judged, or used, then this message is for you. Stay with me till the end, because by the time I finish, you'll stop handing your life to people who only visit to tear it apart. There is a quiet power in the things you don't say. In a world addicted to sharing, posting, documenting every breath and every bruise, silence has become an act of rebellion. Privacy is no longer just a choice. It is a form of protection, a preservation of peace, a shield between your inner world and the chaos waiting outside. When you keep something for yourself, untouched by opinions and judgment, you give it the chance to grow in peace, to breathe, to become real. Peace is not just the absence of noise, it's the absence of intrusion. The fewer people who know the details of your journey, the fewer voices you have echoing inside your head. Every time you tell someone your dreams, your struggles, your love, your doubts, you're giving away a piece of your mental clarity. Because they don't just listen, they respond. They inject their fears, their comparisons, their expectations into something that was once purely yours. And suddenly, you're not just living your truth, you're editing it to fit what others might think, feel, or say. Privacy is your way of saying, I choose not to negotiate my peace. Not everything is meant to be shared, not because it's shameful, but because it's sacred. You don't owe your process to anyone. You don't need to announce your healing to prove you're getting better. You don't need to publish your love to validate that it's real. When you protect something from the world, you give it a safe place to grow, away from envy, from sabotage, from projection. You see, people often confuse access with intimacy. Just because someone knows you doesn't mean they know what moves you. And many times when you open the door of your personal life, people walk in with muddy shoes and no respect. They turn your openness into vulnerability, your trust into gossip, your honesty into ammunition. They smile while listening, but their minds are already calculating how to twist your truth into their entertainment. And when you give them too much, you give them the blueprint to dismantle you. Your peace lives in boundaries. It thrives in discretion. And when you share less, you feel more. You're more present, more in tune with your own emotions, not weighed down by the imagined reactions of others. You're not filtering your experiences through someone else's comfort or opinion. You're simply living authentically, quietly, fully. There is a dangerous assumption in the world that if you don't post it, it didn't happen. That if you don't speak about it, it doesn't exist. But truth doesn't require validation, and real peace doesn't crave applause. Some of the most powerful transformations happen in silence. The best relationships don't seek the approval of a digital crowd. The deepest healing isn't broadcast, it's lived. People say, sharing is caring. And yes, in safe spaces with the right souls, sharing can heal. But don't confuse sharing with oversharing. You don't have to explain yourself to be understood. You don't have to expose your pain to be believed. You don't have to post your progress to prove your worth. The world doesn't deserve your every scar, your every step, your every prayer. Some things are for your eyes, your heart, your soul alone. And the irony is, when you hold your peace close, the world starts to respect you differently. They can't read you. They can't label you. They can't use what they don't know. Your privacy becomes your power. Your silence becomes your strength. You stop being available to every question, every assumption, every analysis. You move differently. You protect your energy, your time, your spirit. This isn't about being cold or closed off. It's about being wise, about understanding that not every listening ear is a loving one, that some people gather your truth not to understand you, but to control you, to belittle you, or to spread what they never helped you carry. So let them wonder, let them guess, let them sit in the discomfort of not knowing. You don't owe anyone a behind-the-scenes view of your life just because they're curious. Peace isn't loud. It's not a spectacle. It's not for sale. And when you learn to live in it, truly live in it, you stop giving away the keys to your most sacred spaces. Privacy isn't isolation. It's preservation. It's saying, this is mine. This is real. This is not for everyone. And in that quiet decision, you build something unshakable. Your peace, untouched, undisturbed, and finally, truly yours. Your life is not a public performance. It is a sacred unfolding. Every moment, every lesson, every ache, and every joy forms the chapters of your story. But not everyone deserves a front row seat to witness how it all unfolds. There are those who watch not with love, but with envy. Some observe not to celebrate, but to criticize. And many sit too close, not because they've earned the right, but because you forgot to lock the door. We live in a time where access is confused with entitlement. Just because someone is near doesn't mean they belong close. Just because they show up doesn't mean they show up with the right intention. There are people in your life right now who only clap when the lights are on you, but leave the moment the stage goes dark. These are not your people. These are spectators, not supporters. And you owe them nothing. You see, the front row is sacred. It's reserved for the rare souls who hold your hand during intermission, who stand behind the curtain, who remind you of your lines when you forget them. The front row is for those who don't just watch. They invest, they protect, they lift. Too often we fill our front rows with familiar faces instead of faithful ones. We give backstage passes to people who wouldn't even buy a ticket if they had to. And why do we do it? Why do we allow just anyone to sit that close? Maybe it's fear of being alone. Maybe it's history. Maybe it's the illusion that loyalty and time are the same thing. But let me tell you this. Some people stay around not because they care, but because being close gives them control. Proximity without purity is poison. You cannot keep inviting people to your table who only come to rearrange your peace. When you allow the wrong people to sit too close, they start to alter the script of your life. You start performing instead of living. You start editing your truth to make them comfortable. You start silencing your pain because they can't hold it. And before you know it, you're not even the main character in your own story anymore. You're just performing for approval that should have never mattered in the first place. Let's be honest. Some of the worst betrayals didn't come from strangers. They came from people you gave the best seats to, the ones you trusted, the ones you rooted for, the ones you let into places others could only dream of. And what did they do? They took notes, they took advantage, they took your truth and twisted it into entertainment. That's why discernment is so important. Not everyone clapping is celebrating. Some clap just loud enough to blend in while secretly hoping you fall. The truth is, you are not obligated to keep anyone close who doesn't honor your presence. You are not unkind for protecting your peace. You are not cold for creating distance. You are wise. You are evolving. You are finally realizing that your energy is expensive, your presence is valuable, and your story is not community property. Let people earn your closeness. Let them prove they can handle your light and your shadow. Let them demonstrate that they don't just love the strong version of you, but also the tired, the healing, the uncertain version. Don't be afraid to rearrange your seating chart. Some people belong in the back, some only in the hallway, and some don't need to be in the building at all. This is your life. You set the boundaries. You control the guest list. You decide who gets the honor of walking with you through the sacred, messy, beautiful parts of becoming. Stop shrinking to fit people who never stretch to understand you. Stop explaining yourself to people who only listen to reply, not to receive. And stop keeping people close just because you once called them family or friend. Titles don't earn seats, character does. You don't owe anyone proximity. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself safety. You owe yourself space to grow without being watched, judged, or drained. Let your heart be a guarded theater, your mind a sacred script, your soul a performance too rich to be cheapened by the wrong audience, because not everyone deserves to sit in the front row of your life. And once you learn that, once you really live that, you stop entertaining what doesn't honor you and start living in a way that finally does. There's something dangerous about handing your truth to someone who lacks the depth to hold it. It's like giving a delicate, sacred object to a child who doesn't know its value. Soon it's scratched, dropped, or worse, broken in careless hands. People misuse what they don't understand, not always out of malice, but often out of ignorance, ego, or their own emotional immaturity. And in a world where empathy is rare and judgment is quick, your personal life becomes a battlefield when shared too freely. We live in a time where people don't just want to know you, they want to label you, define you, reduce you to a moment, a failure, a chapter. They want to take what you say and use it to fit a story they've already decided is true about you. It's not what you say, it's how they twist it, how they hear it through the filter of their own pain, jealousy, insecurity, or confusion. You open up about a struggle and they call you weak. You share your success and they say you're arrogant. You express your dreams and they laugh because they never had the courage to chase theirs. And then you wonder why you feel drained after being honest. It's because you handed your vulnerability to someone who saw it as an opportunity, not a responsibility. Not everyone is equipped to receive your truth. Some listen only to gather information, not to understand, not to support, but to store your words for future use, like ammunition waiting for the right moment. People who misuse your story often cloak their intentions in fake concern, soft smiles, or hollow silence. And before you know it, the very thing you shared to feel lighter becomes the weight they use to keep you down. It's not just strangers who misuse your truth. Sometimes it's people closest to you, friends, family, lovers, people you thought would guard your words like treasures, but instead treat them like gossip or leverage. You speak from the heart and they minimize it. You reveal your wounds and they compare theirs. You cry and they roll their eyes or tell you to get over it. And in those moments, you begin to learn the cost of being understood by the wrong soul. There is a reason why silence becomes the sanctuary for so many of us. When people misinterpret your intentions, you stop explaining. When they twist your words, you stop speaking. When they laugh at your pain or dismiss your experience, you start to build walls instead of bridges. And while that silence may feel lonely, it's often where your healing finally begins. Because in silence, no one can misuse what they never knew. It's important to remember that misunderstanding is not your burden to carry. You do not exist to be decoded by everyone. You do not need to simplify your depth for shallow waters. You do not owe explanations to people who don't even try to understand your language. Your feelings are not up for debate. Your experience is not a panel discussion. And your truth doesn't require the approval of those who can't hold it with care. People fear what they don't understand, and what they fear, they attack. Sometimes in subtle ways, eye rolls, dismissive comments, condescending advice. Other times in open hostility, mocking your lifestyle, questioning your beliefs, tearing down your choices. It's not about you, it's about their discomfort. Your authenticity threatens the masks they wear. Your healing disrupts their stagnation. Your boldness reminds them of their own timidity. So they misuse you to shrink you, hoping you'll stop shining so they don't have to face their own shadows. That's why wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to reveal and when to retreat, when to explain, and when to let people draw their own conclusions, because their assumptions are not your responsibility. You do not need to exhaust yourself proving your worth to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. The truth is, the most sacred parts of you are not meant for public consumption. Not everyone deserves to know your why, your how, your what's next. Not everyone will know what to do with your truth, and many will mishandle it not because you were wrong to share, but because they were never worthy of receiving it. So you learn to listen more than you speak. You learn to observe who asks questions with curiosity and who asks with judgment. You learn to give people your time, but not your secrets. You learn to sit with yourself and find comfort in your own company, knowing that understanding doesn't always come from others. It often comes from within. People misuse what they don't understand. That will never change. But what can change is your willingness to keep handing your truth to those who only want to dissect it. Guard your peace, honor your journey, and never let your story become a weapon in someone else's hands. There is something unshakably powerful about the person who walks in silence, who moves without announcing, who grows without broadcasting. Mystery has a presence that noise can never imitate. In a world obsessed with visibility, with telling it all, with putting every thought and moment on display, mystery is rebellion. And that rebellion, when rooted in self-awareness, becomes power. When people can't predict your next step, they can't control you. When they don't know what you're thinking, they can't manipulate your emotions. And when they're unsure of what you're building, they can't tear it down before it blooms. Keeping parts of your life private isn't deception, it's protection. You are not obligated to be readable to anyone but yourself. What you withhold is not always a secret, it's strategy, and strategy is strength. There's a reason the most commanding people don't over-explain themselves. Their strength isn't in how loud they are, it's in how still they remain when others seek validation. You don't have to spill every detail to be honest. You don't have to expose every layer to be real. Mystery doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're holding your vision close, holding your boundaries tight, holding your growth sacred until it's ready to stand on its own. People underestimate what they can't figure out. That's why the mysterious are often labeled as distant, cold, or arrogant. But none of those labels matter because power doesn't argue with misunderstanding. Power is quiet. It doesn't perform for approval or explain itself to noise. The minute you stop answering every question, stop defending every decision, stop giving everyone a front row seat to your internal world, you begin to rise. Not in arrogance, but in peace. Not in isolation, but in self-trust. The truth is, the more people know about your thoughts, your dreams, your wounds, the more control they have over your spirit. If they know where it hurts, they know where to aim. If they know your hopes, they know where to attack. That's why mystery is not just elegant, it's essential. You are not obligated to hand out the map to your soul. Let people wonder, let them guess. Let them sit with their assumptions while you move with intention. When you are unreadable, you become unforgettable. There's a glow in not being fully seen. There's weight in silence that can never be found in noise. Power is not always about domination. It's about presence. And nothing commands presence like the one who is comfortable in their mystery. The person who doesn't need to be understood to feel secure, the one who is rooted in purpose, not performance. Look at nature. The most dangerous storms make no noise at first. The most fertile roots grow in complete darkness. And the most transformative moments of a person's life often happen when no one is watching. You don't need the world's attention to become great. You need solitude. You need silence. You need time away from the spotlight to build something real, something deep, something that cannot be shaken when the world finally sees it. Mystery also forces others to meet you on your terms. When you keep something for yourself, you force people to engage with your energy, not just your information. They don't follow you for details. They follow you because they feel something they can't name. That's power. That's influence without effort. That's the magnetism of mystery. It's not about manipulation. It's not about games. It's about knowing that your story is too valuable to be handled carelessly, that your evolution is too personal to be measured by public opinion, and that your journey is too sacred to be shared with eyes that only want to watch, not understand. You get to decide what parts of yourself you give the world. And when you keep some parts hidden, not out of fear, but out of reverence, you deepen your connection with yourself. Not everyone deserves access to your becoming. Not everyone needs to know how you got here or where you're going next. Your power grows in the quiet corners, in the things left unsaid, in the boundaries you build with intention. Let others talk. Let them speculate. Let them create stories in the silence you've chosen. Because you've learned that mystery doesn't diminish your truth, it amplifies it. You don't lose connection by being quiet. You attract deeper ones. You don't become cold by being private. You become focused. And in that focus, in that sacred withholding, your power multiplies. So hold some things close. Not because you're hiding, but because you're building something so real, so meaningful. It doesn't need to be understood to exist. It just needs to be yours. Quietly, powerfully, completely. We are often told that talking helps, that sharing lightens the load, that voicing your pain brings clarity, release, healing. And yes, in the right moment, with the right soul, sharing can be the salve on a wound that aches too deep to bear alone. But here's the truth people rarely speak. Sharing doesn't always heal. Sometimes it hurts more. Sometimes it exposes you to judgment instead of compassion. Sometimes it opens a door you were better off leaving closed. Not everyone deserves to hear your story. Not everyone knows how to hold your truth without squeezing it into their own understanding. Some people listen only to respond. Others listen to compare. And some don't listen at all. They just wait for the silence so they can redirect the spotlight back to themselves. In those moments, sharing doesn't soothe, it drains. You walk away feeling unheard, unseen, and even more isolated than before you spoke. The pain of being vulnerable in unsafe places is a pain that lingers. You open your chest, hoping for a balm, and instead, you're met with silence, dismissal, or worse, gossip. Your truth, once sacred, becomes a topic. Your struggle becomes someone else's entertainment. And that's when you realize that not every listener is a healer. Not every conversation is a cure. Sometimes sharing your pain invites the wrong kind of attention. You may find people start looking at you differently, not with empathy, but with pity, or judgment, or quiet satisfaction. Not everyone claps for your healing. Some were only comfortable with your brokenness because it made them feel whole. Your progress threatens their complacency. Your voice disrupts the narrative they built about you. So instead of embracing your honesty, they resist it. And suddenly you begin to wonder if silence would have been safer. It's easy to mistake talking for healing, but healing is not always verbal. Healing often begins in solitude, in the quiet spaces where you are free from performance, explanation, and reaction. It happens when you let yourself feel what you feel without needing someone else to validate it. It deepens when you learn to witness your own wounds without judgment, without shame, without seeking rescue. Sharing your story before it's fully processed can sometimes reopen the very wounds you're trying to close. You speak from a place of rawness, and someone's careless words drive the knife deeper. Not intentionally, perhaps, but carelessness wounds all the same. Healing requires gentleness, and not everyone has a gentle heart. Some are harsh by nature, some are triggered by your truth, some see your honesty as weakness and step on it to elevate their own sense of control. It's okay to be selective. It's wise to be discerning. You're not cold for keeping your pain to yourself. You're not broken because you choose to sit with your feelings before speaking them aloud. There's courage in privacy. There's strength in stillness. And sometimes the most healing thing you can do is resist the urge to explain yourself to people who haven't earned the right to know you deeply. There will be moments when silence feels like abandonment, like isolation. But in truth, that silence is often where you meet yourself, where you learn to parent your own inner child, where you learn to hold yourself with the tenderness others failed to give. In those sacred silences, you begin to rewrite the narrative, not for applause, not for attention, but for your own peace. That's the kind of healing that lasts. If you do choose to share, choose wisely. Share with those who listen not to fix you, but to feel you. People who hold your story like it's fragile, not gossip. People who don't just nod, but who sit with you in the ache, offering presence instead of platitudes. These people are rare, but once you find them, they become mirrors, reflecting your worth, not your wounds. But until then, be okay with not sharing. Be okay with keeping your journey between you and the quiet that shaped you. Healing isn't performance. It's personal. It's messy, sacred, nonlinear. And it doesn't need an audience to be real. Some things are meant to be processed in silence and revealed in strength, not explained in the middle of the storm, but witnessed in the calm after it. Sharing doesn't always heal. Sometimes it harms. Sometimes it delays the very restoration you're seeking. So speak when you're ready. Speak when you've sorted through the noise and reached a place of grounded truth. Until then, let your silence be your sanctuary. Let it hold you, shape you, and prepare you for the day when your voice rises, not out of desperation, but from deep and lasting wholeness. Growth is not always loud. It doesn't always come with announcements, confetti, or applause. In fact, most real, lasting growth happens in the quiet, in the moments no one sees, in the decisions you make when no one is watching, in the tears you wipe away in the dark, in the boundaries you build in silence, in the strength you gain, not from shouting, but from enduring. The world glorifies the visible, the celebrated, the documented, but the soul grows best in hidden soil. Quiet places are not voids, they are incubators. They are where you learn to hear yourself clearly, away from noise, judgment, and distraction. In the silence, you learn what's real, what matters, what's been costing you peace. You notice the patterns, the triggers, the wounds that need tending. You start to realize how much of your life has been lived trying to meet expectations that were never yours. And that's where the shift begins. Not in a crowd, not on a stage, but in stillness. The world will always try to convince you that growth must be public to be valid, that if no one sees it, it didn't happen. But that's a lie. A seed does not scream as it breaks through the soil. The sun doesn't announce itself when it rises. Your evolution does not need permission, likes, or recognition. The most meaningful changes in your life often happen in the background when you stop performing and start reflecting. It's in those quiet seasons that you begin to shed the layers that no longer serve you. You start saying no more often. You start choosing peace over chaos, solitude over toxic company, truth over comfort. And though those choices may not be celebrated, they are sacred. They build something in you that can't be taken away. Resilience, self-trust, clarity. But make no mistake, the quiet places are not easy. They come with loneliness, with doubt, with the ache of letting go. It's hard to step back when you've spent your life trying to be seen. It's hard to disconnect when the world tells you that your worth is tied to how loud, how visible, how busy you are. But real growth asks you to step into discomfort, to release the need to be understood and embrace the need to understand yourself. You'll notice that the more you grow, the less you need to explain, the less you seek validation. You stop trying to convince people of your worth. You stop needing to prove how far you've come. You begin to live from a deeper place, a quieter, steadier place. That's not regression, that's maturity. That's what happens when you stop chasing and start becoming. There's a beauty in being unknown while you grow, in not being defined by your past or your potential, but by your present commitment to evolve. When no one's watching, you're free to make mistakes, to fall apart, to rebuild without commentary. You don't need to curate your healing or make it look poetic. You just need to keep going, step by step, breath by breath. And in that unseen persistence, you become something unshakable. Quiet growth also teaches you compassion, because when you've sat in silence with your own suffering, you start to see others more clearly. You don't judge their slowness. You don't mock their confusion. You understand that everyone is carrying something invisible, and that understanding doesn't make you louder. It makes you softer, wiser, more human. You'll learn that silence is not emptiness. It's space. Space to think, to feel, to rest, to reset. In the quiet, you'll find things you didn't even know you'd lost. Your joy, your creativity, your inner child. You'll start to dream again. You'll remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And slowly, without needing anyone to notice, you'll rise. One day, the world might see the changes. They'll see how much stronger you've become, how much lighter you walk, how much calmer you speak. They'll call it sudden. They'll say it came out of nowhere, but you'll know the truth. It was built in silence, through sleepless nights, through tough decisions, through every quiet act of courage no one clapped for. So don't rush to be seen. Don't fear the quiet. Let it do its work. Let it refine you, not define you, because the strongest trees grow deep roots before they ever break the surface. And your roots, though unseen, are everything. Keep growing. Keep going. The quiet is not your punishment. It's your preparation. Your life is not a performance. It was never meant to be. You are not here to entertain others with your pain, your joy, your progress, or your process. You are not here to prove anything. You are not a show. You are a soul, unfolding moment by moment in ways too sacred to be packaged, too profound to be understood by a distracted audience. Yet we live in a world that demands performance, a world that praises visibility over authenticity, a world where worth is measured by likes, followers, reactions, by how well you fit into a box, how easily you can be consumed. We are taught from an early age to adjust, to mask, to edit ourselves for the comfort of others. Smile when you're breaking, be polite when you're angry, stay strong when you're crumbling inside. These are the roles we learn to play, and before we realize it, we're living our lives on a stage we never auditioned for, performing lines we never wrote. But the truth is, none of it is real. Not the applause, not the criticism, not the script someone else handed you. What's real is what you feel when no one is looking. What's real is who you are when you stop performing for acceptance and start living for peace. What's real is messy, unfiltered, imperfect, and that is where your freedom begins. There is a high cost to constantly performing. When you live for the gaze of others, you lose touch with your own reflection. You start making choices not from your truth, but from the version of you people expect. You start curating your life instead of experiencing it. You start hiding your sadness because it doesn't fit the role. You fake confidence because doubt makes people uncomfortable. You post smiles while you're quietly drowning, and it's exhausting. You lose yourself trying to be seen. But you are not a character. You are a human being. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to disappoint others if it means showing up for yourself. It's okay to outgrow the role you were once applauded for. The version of you they liked might have been the one who tolerated too much, spoke too little, sacrificed too often. Outgrowing that version is not betrayal, it's growth. And growth often means stepping off the stage and walking away from the lights. You don't need to announce every move, explain every decision, or perform every emotion. You don't need an audience to validate your existence. What you do in silence, in private, in the sacred space of your own becoming, that's what defines you. Not the performance, but the process. Not what they see, but what you survive. Not how loudly you rise, but how gracefully you endure. Some people will only love the version of you that entertains them, that keeps them comfortable, that stays in line. But you are not obligated to keep playing that part. Your truth is not a costume. Your dreams are not for public rehearsal. Your healing is not a storyline. Your life is not content. And the more you stop performing, the more you start living. Living means you cry when you need to cry, not when it's convenient for others. Living means you say no without guilt. Living means you rest without apology. Living means you walk away from people who love the mask but couldn't handle the face beneath it. Living means you dare to be real in a world that thrives on pretense. You don't owe anyone your perfection. You don't have to be inspiring all the time. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to be in progress. You are allowed to be messy, loud, silent, unsure, changing. That's not weakness, it's life. And life doesn't follow a script. It breaks it, rewrites it, rips it up, and starts again. Let the applause fade. Let the spotlight dim. Come back to yourself. Sit with your truth. Live your life not for their approval, but for your alignment. You were never created to be a performer. You were created to be whole. Let them call you inconsistent, difficult, different. Let them misunderstand your silence, your solitude, your shifting. That's none of your business. Your only job is to live fully, freely, honestly, without needing an audience to clap for you, without waiting for someone to tell you who you are. Your life is not a performance, it's a miracle, and it deserves to be lived, not staged. So keep some things only for you. Let the world see your shine, but never your wiring. Speak less of what you're building. Talk less of who hurt you. Trust less of those who only come close when there's something to take. Because the safest life isn't the loudest. It's the one protected by wisdom, sealed in silence, and honored in peace.